Well, I guess the Full Fat Podcast is back for another episode of Kenobi. I'm joined, of course, by Mr. Charlie Lilly. I'm sorry, what the fuck was that? What was that filler? Absolute filler from start to finish.
And there's only 6 episodes.
We've got 2 episodes left.
Where's it going, Matt? What's happening?
Well, I assume Vader's going to try and catch Kenobi again.
Do you think he's going to slip through?
I think he's going to slip through the net yet again. I think like Vader's going to try and grab him, and Kenobi's going to be like in speedos. He's going to be all oiled up, and he's going to go whip woo, and he's going to like miss him. And Vader's going to be like, like once again you've foiled my plan. See you in 10 years' time. I'm going to quit hunting you now.
It's going to be like, and it's like them trying to like catch each other. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah, particularly that one when he's like,
yeah,
I'm not here. Oop, I'm here now. In the last episode,
and when
but now,
like you know, he's dragging Kenobi across the flames, and then 5 minutes later, when the flame gets a little bit higher, he decides, yeah, you know what? I'll let him go.
Cool.
I'll let him go. I saw some people online suggesting that it's because he wants Kenobi to be at full strength to duel him. And I'm like, okay, I could get behind that potentially. He's like, no, I want this to be a challenge. I want this to be on the level of the Mustafar duel. But then at the end of this episode, he's frustrated that they let Kenobi slip away. So clearly that is not the case.
Yeah.
I think people give this show too much credit, really.
Way too much, yeah.
But yeah, what did you think, my man?
I mean, I think it was a lot of not like that. I mean, it was an episode that thought it had tension and it didn't. You know, I sound so harsh, but like I don't really feel bad because it's like such a big company and it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like if it was like an indie film or whatever, I wouldn't rip into it as much because like it makes sense that it's difficult to make these things. Whereas like they don't have any excuses. So I think the problem with it is that it's a lot of like. Obviously, the episode is infiltrating. They're infiltrating the base to get Leia to, break her out again. And this time, he's going through corridors and he has to stop because there's a droid. And then he gets out the corridor and he has to stop again because there's a stormtrooper. And then, meanwhile, we see that thing that we've never seen before, in Star Wars, where they go undercover as an Imperials to heist
I love that.
The base.
I love it when they do that.
So original. I've seen that. I've never seen that before. And then that's done. She just presses some buttons and kills someone off screen, and all of a sudden everyone's in the room. And then Moses Ingrid just shouts a bit. And I just thought there was nothing. There was just no thrust. There was no character really. There was just things were happening in front of my eyes, and they all made me sad.
I think this episode is the worst, undeniably, and I think it's because even in the moments of Kenobi that were rife with filler, like last week when they took the trek across the planet, there was still at least like a little nugget of character with like Leia and Kenobi and him being like, I wish I could say I was your dad, and I had this brother that I can't really remember, and all these kind of things. Like nice moments delivered by McGregor with some effort. This episode had none of that. None of that. It was a really poor heist, and I feel like I'm gonna paraphrase a lot of the film Crit Hulk's review of this episode, because I read it earlier and I thought it was just so spot on in that you get the opening with the back to tank cross cutting is a moment that sort of implies deeper themes and deeper character work that then never comes. Like, it's all well and good to have us cross-cutting between the two back-to-tanks, and it's a nice moment, but it never goes beyond that. And then the other thing that I thought was so spot on about what he was saying was a good heist. You know the plan inside out before they go into the heist.
Yeah.
You know all the little things that have to happen, that have to go right for them to pull the heist off. And then as you're watching the heist, when one after the other these things go wrong, it ups the tension. You wiggle in your seat a bit more. I didn't know the plan when they went in. As you say, it's the same couple of corridors. There's a droid that goes past. Oh, we better dodge out the way of that. There's no tension. It's anti-tension.
There's nothing.
And you know Leia's going to break out. Not just because she survives to A New Hope, but because this is a Disney show. They're not going to torture the kid. And also, like, the scene with Reva interrogating her, just... There's nothing to it, is there? Like, and it makes me sad, particularly with this Reva character, because I liked where it started with episode 1, with all this like, oh, why do you want Kenobi so bad? And also we were seeing her have conflict that was genuine with the Grand Inquisitor, because he kind of saw her as the runt of the litter, and she wants the top spot. Whereas now she's just a mustache twirling villain. All she's doing is shouting at Leia for 40 minutes.
That's literally all she's doing. I 100% agree. I think that you hit the nail on the head with the knowing the plan before the heist, because in that that sense we don't when things do go wrong, we don't. For example, like let's use Top Gun Maverick for example, right? Let's use Top Gun, the great Top Gun Maverick. There's they very much establish in it the plan for what they need to do with these jets, right? And it's so incredibly impossible that if one little thing goes wrong, that plan is done for. So when something does go wrong, you're like, fuck, what are they going to do? Yep. What are they going to do? Because this is impossible anyway without the fucking fact that they fucked up a little bit, And this has none of that. There's none of that, like you said. It's just people wander around through corridors. It's just like they're going through the beats of like what they think the scene should be. What scenes are supposed to be. And it's just so uninspired more than anything. It's like, how many times do we need to see this same scene? Like we've seen this so many times throughout Star Wars. Like now, the Mandalorian done it, and the Mandalorian's done it like 10 times better. I mean, look at the Prisoner episode. That's a perfect example of this episode done right.
And also, what was the point of this in the sense that, like, they capture Leia and then they free her again 20 minutes later? I think things like that really destabilise the threat from the antagonist. Yes. Because if Kenobi can just waltz in and then yank her out 20 minutes later, and the bad guys are back to square one, then there's just no threat.
No, they're not on their case. It's kind of like where are we going now then? Okay, so that's happened, and it kind of ends in, usually when I say, I don't know where we're going next, like that's the exciting thing. But this is like, well, every time I've not known where it's gone in the most uninteresting way possible. For example, like, she gets caught at the end of the last episode, and then they just go in, break her out, like. What if she was caught for a couple of episodes? What if like there was something that happened in between that time of them trying to get them that, you know what I mean? Then we got some more tension going, But it was just so lazy. I'm just like, we've got 2 episodes left. It doesn't feel like it's coming towards anything. It doesn't feel like. And I think this is one of the biggest. This was my biggest fucking worry with it being a TV show in the first place. Is that it just shouldn't be. Kenobi shouldn't be having an episode where he's gone on a little adventure trying to save someone. I don't know. I just think it's so.
I don't. He's
such an important character. It's not delving into him.
2 hours.
No, it's not delving into him. It's not delving into like what it means to be a Jedi in this post Order 66 world. It's that it could be a worse time to be a Jedi right now, but we're not delving into like what that really is like for Kenobi. The guy that feels responsible for all of it.
Yeah.
So,
and I just think, we've even lost the craft behind even, what little there was in the first episode. It felt really earned when he dug his lightsaber out and then you revealed it was on his belt.
Yeah.
And now he's just twirling it around with very little fanfare. And also what annoys me so much is, I want to see Kenobi clashing with other Force users. I don't think that's such a huge thing to want, because we have not only Vader, but we have 3 cannon fodder Sith Inquisitors.
Yeah.
And Kenobi is running around a base where 3 of them are just chilling, and he's just fighting stormtroopers. Like, when he's caught in that corridor with the, when he eventually like cracks the window and that, why isn't Sung Kang's character finally being given something to do? Why is there not an opportunity for a duel there? And then at the end, when Reva comes out onto like the landing platform, Kenobi's right there. They don't have a fight. Like, I'm just like, why did you introduce so many lightsaber wielding characters and then they don't clash with Kenobi at all. And like maybe they're saving it for the finale, maybe. But I just feel like that's something that you should pepper throughout the story, rather than like are they all going to fight Kenobi at the end?
Yep, I was just thinking that while you were saying that. Like, yeah, we've got 2 episodes left. There's 3 fucking Inquisitors and Darth Vader. What is he going to fight them all at the same time in the next episode? You know what I mean? I was like, I don't think so.
They've all done next to nothing.
Yeah,
and also like I just think this episode is just again like what we were saying last week about like the Disney Plus 6-hour movie structure. The first 2 episodes usually show some promise, and then it's always that middle act that sags. Yeah, because like, what was this about? Like you could cut this out and just have Leia still with the bad guys in the next episode, wherever we find them, and you probably wouldn't really miss out on anything.
No.
And also, I just think we really missed out an opportunity for Kenobi to heal himself in that Bacta tank and to have a contemplative episode, even if it was 40 minutes, before we kick off with the action again. Like this was the moment for me where we could have had some real character, and I think it again proves why Loki was probably the best 6-episode Disney Plus series, because you think about the episode, I'm pretty sure it's episode 4 of that run, is the episode where we get Richard E. Grant, isn't it? And like he talks about, you know, how he missed his brother and how like it sucks that they went down this road, and you really feel something for that character, even though it's just a one-off. We're just cycling through supporting characters. We've got O'Shea Jackson, you know, Ice Cube Jr. does nothing, has no character really. Like he mentions that his wife got taken by Inquisitors. There's not enough there to care. And then, you know, mate, let's pour one out for Wade. You know, oh my god. Mate. I was so sad when Wade died.
Yeah, I've not stopped thinking about it since.
No, I mean,
he's
like
integral to the episode. But I was saying to you I was like, the whole joke aside, I was saying to you, like, all it took was when he goes to meet O'Shea Jackson's character, and all it takes was Wade to be in that room, and he says a couple of funny lines to him. Oh yeah, I don't know. So whatever, I don't know. And then that's it. And then we have the scene later. It's like, I mean, okay, we know who he is. For him, we meet him in the ship, and then he dies in the ship. We don't.
Yeah.
But like, he has like one line, and we know where it's going. Oh, I'm going to stay around a bit longer. Oh, I don't think you are. I think you're going to stay around forever because you're going to be dead.
It's the equivalent of like Top Gun Maverick, Hangman. Yeah. You cast a likeable actor in Glenn Powell. Yeah. You get him to say a couple of things. You like him by the end of that first scene. You know, if he then died in training 10 minutes later, you'd feel a little something.
100%.
And like, I don't see why we can't just get that. Like, you just have to make them somewhat likable. I don't think it takes that much screen time to do that.
No.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I was just thinking as well, like, I think if you look at something like Mandalorian Season 2, which I think probably wasn't as strong as the first season, you at least have the whole, you know, thrust of like, the thing is that Mando is having a conflict in whether he should seek Baby Yoda or Grogu out training with someone else, or whether, you know, he should keep him and raise him as one of his own. You know, that's throughout that. I understand that, and then obviously the final episode deals with that, comes to a resolution in that problem, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like this is like, I don't know what it's about. I don't know what, like, Kenobi is trying to look after Leia. Is there anything else?
That's it, really, isn't it? Like, I just think there's no.
We haven't found out anything else since the first 2 episodes. No. But what else have we revealed in the first 2 that I didn't know really happened in the first 2 episodes? Nothing really.
It's just a cat and mouse with Vader and Kenobi.
Yeah.
But I like, other than like, you know, the morsels we got fed in episode 3, like, you know, this is what you made me, and you're gonna suffer like I suffered. You know, you can tell there's a lot of anger, and there's a strong desire for revenge from Vader. But where's the relationship between them in the sense that they, you know, you could perceive them as brothers, soldiers in arms. There's a bit of a father-son dynamic there, which is always what I kind of gravitate towards. That's what I think is interesting. You know, you've got a character here who was raised by his mother, and then, you know, Qui-Gon was kind of like the perfect father he needed, and instead he kind of got Kenobi. And then they, you know, they had kind of a rough dynamic in those earlier years, and they come to, you know, really care about each other. Like, there's nothing playing on any of that. If you just watch this devoid of the prequel trilogy, you wouldn't get any of that context.
No, not at all.
It's just,
so
it's
true.
wafer thin.
It really is.
And I'm sick and tired of it. And like Disney, as you say earlier, they're making all the money. This is like the most watched Disney Plus show. Like, how hard is it to just give us a killer script? Because, you know, I could forgive the fact that it looks like TV. I could forgive the fact that it doesn't look as good as The Mandalorian even did. It doesn't look anywhere near as good as Greg Fraser's work on Rogue One. It doesn't even look as good as Andor, the trailer. But I could forgive all that if the story was gripping us. If I felt like I really cared about Kenobi's plight. But I don't.
No, not at all. I think it's weird. It's like we've got to the point where, like, I've seen, like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I've seen, like, fans come up with better ideas for Kenobi stories than this. Particularly Mr. Matt's over here, Mr. Full Fat video, which you can find on his channel. And we're just sitting there like, you know, like we said, we're not Hollywood writers, man, are we? Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's just simple stuff in it that's just missing. I just feel like you could have took this in so many directions, the Kenobi story, and I feel like they could have picked a more uninspired, boring way to go about it. At least, you know, even some of these fan fiction stuff, you know, they're trying to do something a bit elaborate. You know, some of it obviously can be a bit too far that direction. Don't get me wrong, but this doesn't even try.
I'm flattered that you think my what is it, 4 years old now, fan fiction is more compelling. But again, it's a lot of the same ideas that I pitched. You know, Kenobi is kind of in that broken, sort of almost Last Jedi Luke state.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't really want to be a Jedi anymore. He's doing anything to avoid pulling out the lightsaber. Vader wants him.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, you know, if I may, I feel like the way to characterise that is he's, you know, a veteran who is broken and he's got PTSD, and then you play on the father-son relationship between them. You know, like at least I had the decency to cut some flashbacks of when Anakin was a child and how that relationship worked out. But, you know, like, I mean, I haven't gotten back to it in 4 years, so, you know, I'm sure there's lots of things that I would look back on now and be like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if that was very good. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I just miss. There's no like.
At least
there's no relationships.
Yeah, there's no relationships. I don't really feel like they're on his arse, really. They're just capture. No. It's like capture and release. That's what I feel like keeps constantly happening.
And like, we laughed our asses off when Vader turned up, because it's like, I mean, maybe he turned up afterwards, but it kind of feels implied that he was on the base. Like, what was he doing?
What was he doing?
Just chilling, just relaxing.
I just feel so weird. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if a Force user is in the same vicinity as another Force user, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but I feel like they both can go, oh. I mean, fucking Vader in Return of the Jedi, he's like, sister. You know what I mean? Like, he senses it, like, just from fucking being around him, you know? So, surely it should have been, he's, you know what I mean? He's in the fucking, he's here. Now I'm coming down for you. And then maybe, just something. Just, I don't get
this is the problem with it being an interquel rather than like a fresh story is if this, like, given the information we've been given in the first couple of episodes, if this was a fresh story, the story would be hurtling towards the fact that Leia is going to find out who her father is, and her father is going to find out who she is.
Yeah,
because that's the natural closure point, isn't it, to those questions? But because obviously this is just a little chapter, a little slither in the grand tapestry of what the Skull Saga is, we can't answer any of those questions. We can't go any further than that. So I just think it always. You always dig yourself a hole the more legacy characters you put into these things. And whilst I thought it was kind of a novel idea to have Kenobi go and save Leia rather than it be about him protecting Luke, I think it's almost a mistake to keep her in the whole show. I think maybe that should have been the first act thrust.
Yeah.
And then something completely different that we weren't expecting should have happened. Yeah. That should have pushed him and Vader together. Like, I don't. And they haven't had enough time to talk.
No.
They barely interacted at all.
No.
And like, you take something like The Boys, which has just started up again. We watched the first 3 episodes, didn't we? We watched the first one, then we watched the other 2 after like a day or so. Every single scene is of consequence to the larger narrative. There's characters that you love, that you care about on... Yeah, every second. And also, like, the morality is complex because even the most vile villains, like Homelander, there's points in that show where you feel sorry for him, you pity him, because he is so loveless and pathetic and starved of any kind of affection. And he's despicable. And the fact that you can still feel that for such a terrible character is just a testament to the writing. And, like, you know, there's pretty much every character that has done something terrible in that show, you still get like a moment with them where you're like, oh, I'd say aside from maybe Stormfront, she's probably like the most evil character, isn't she, at this point? She's a complete Nazi. But I'd say like everyone else has, you know, a little something. And that's what makes it so compelling.
But even Stormfront, they had that moment when she's in the hospital. I can't really. I don't know. Can we say spoilers?
Yeah, spoilers. Yeah, fuck it.
Okay, yeah. So spoilers of The Boys.
If you haven't seen The Boys, again, what are you doing listening to this third-rate podcast? Go and watch The Boys before you watch Kenobi.
100%. Well, even that episode where you know, where Stormfront's in the bed and he says like, "Blink if you know you want to wish me happy birthday" or whatever it is. And she can't do it, and then he leaves the room and she does it and she lets down a tear. It's like, she's a horrible character, but like in that moment you're like, oh fuck, that looks like hell that she's in right now. You know what I mean? It's like it still takes the time to do that with his characters, but not only that, I was like you said, there was so much character in that happening. These 4 episodes we've had of Kenobi, I feel like, in terms of, if we're looking at the pacing in terms of the amount of story you get out of The Boys, those 4 episodes we've got of Kenobi are basically like the first episode of The Boys, like 1 episode of The Boys, in terms of how much shit happens. And do you know what I mean? It's like, it's so stretched out in Kenobi, but like not in an interesting way at all. Whereas like The Boys is like constantly you're getting new ideas, constantly you're getting new tension, you're getting new characters, you're getting oh shit moments left and right. You don't know where you're being thrown about. And like you said, earlier we said about this where we don't know where it's going, and that's a bad thing. With The Boys, we don't know where it's going, and it's a good thing because it's like it could go anywhere. Not in the Kenobi. It's like it's not going any. We don't know where it's going because there's no thrust to it. There's a complete different.
And there's constant surprises. Constant.
Exactly, constant. It's ahead of the audience. Whereas Kenobi, I'm like, it's not really ahead of us, but it's just sort of pondering along, and it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere.
The bar has been set so low by all this Disney Plus content, but at the same time it swarms so much of the cultural conversation that I think people are just willing to accept mediocrity now. Like, I've seen some comments saying that like the Vader in this episode was spine-chilling, and that the cross-cutting between them in the bacta tanks was so heartbreaking. It's like, is it really? Like, it's like the first step to those things. But it never really delivers. And I saw a tweet that really stuck out to me. It was under like a critic's review, or them posting a review of the episode, and they were saying something like, "We should be happy that we've gotten Vader at all. People demand too much." I'm like, no, people demand nothing. People demand such little from these things, and I just hate the whole idea that like, get what you're given. You should be so grateful that you have this at all. I'm like, if it was the choice between no Kenobi and mediocre Kenobi, I'd rather have no Kenobi at all. It existed stronger in our minds. Like, we wanted this since Disney bought Star Wars, and there's been rumours about it for years. And we you know, Kenobi's one of our favourite characters. You know, don't tell me that I don't want to see this stuff. I just want to see it done well.
Yeah. 100%.
And then I feel like, you know, the people that are disappointed. I was actually quite surprised last week when we slated it, and you know, a lot of the comments on the YouTube upload were kind of saying like, yeah, I felt similarly kind of disappointed. Don't know where this is going. And I was quite surprised because I feel like the voice of disappointment is so small, and it is dwarfed by 2 sides of the same coin. You either get the kind of alt-right side of the fan base that hate Moses Ingram and post all this vile filth, racism, and don't just uploading heinous videos, or you go to like the TikTok, Twitter side of it, where it's all these people just lapping up anything Disney gives them, like, oh, this was one of the coldest moments in Star Wars history. I'm like, no, it isn't. There's nothing to it. It's so mid. It's painful. And you just whatever Disney feeds you, you're just like, oh yeah, this was so amazing. This was so cold. The action in this episode was so good. I'm like, fuck off. I'm sorry. No. Just both, like, and I feel so disillusioned by both camps. And there must be a middle ground, and I feel like this, there must be more of us than it seems. Yeah. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
It's either I hate it because I wanted Kenobi to be twirling around his lightsaber for 6 hours, and I wanted this checklist of things to happen to make it Star Wars, or I'm so pleased by what little Disney gave me that I'm going to like shout and sing and dance about how great this is, even though I've been given very little in the way of any kind of emotional context.
So true. That's so true.
And I'm sorry if you love it. You know what? If you love it, more power to you. But I just I can't get behind this.
I don't know
this lack of anything.
I just don't get how, like, if I said to you on paper, like, the Solo spin-off origin story would be better than an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series about what happened to him after Order 66, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, how did that happen? Like, Solo on paper shouldn't have been, like, I mean, before that film came out, we were so against it. We were like, oh, why are they doing this? It's the one character that doesn't need to have any more. Like, he's cool because, he has his moment. He's the side kind of character. Don't fucking tell us his origin, and then it ended up being like this really fun adventure movie. Whereas, like, Kenobi, it practically writes itself, like what happens in between.
Yeah.
But yet somehow this has become the lesser version. It's less cinematic. It's less. It has less weight to it. It feels like we learn we learn less about the Star Wars universe itself than we do in Solo and
Solo feels like, I think because Ron Howard directed it and he kind of comes from that Lucas Spielberg sort of school, or at least he has kind of like the echoes of that. It felt more like something George Lucas would have made than this does, like all the floaty camera work and the sort of the anti-tension. I would take the train heist in Solo over anything that we've seen in Kenobi. I would take
the opening.
I'd take the opening over that. Yeah, the car chase is sweet.
Yeah.
I would take even the episodes of The Mandalorian that were essentially plotless, like the Spiders Cave episode, had more spectacle and had more craft behind the spectacle than this does. Like, that was a cool sequence 100%. When all the spiders start flooding the fucking ship, and you're like, oh, this is horrible. And I would watch that again. I wouldn't watch. I don't know if I'll watch any of this again. What is there to come back to? Any of it.
Nothing.
And maybe they could bring it home in the next 2 episodes. They might. The most I'm hoping for is a good duel, and it reminds me of a friend of mine, Marcus Beard, was speaking to me about Moon Knight when it just finished airing, and he said to me, I gave up with the plot because it was so empty, and the final 2 episodes I just sped through to watch all the fights, to get the spectacle, because I didn't care anymore. And I almost feel like that's the point I'm at with this Kenobi show. Like, all I really want now is to watch Kenobi and Vader throw down and hope that it's going to be good, because there's nothing in the way of a gripping story.
Yeah.
And there's what's going to pay off? What's going to happen?
Nothing's been set up really that's going to deliver in terms of character in the as an emotional crux at the end. I can see anyway.
I'm just so fed up, Char. So fed up.
Me too.
And ultimately, it hurts. It hurts me doing what I do on the main channel. Like, If Kenobi was a banger, if Book of Boba Fett was a banger, I'd get so much mileage out of these things because I'd have passion to talk about them. But like, what am I going to say about Kenobi? I think I will probably do a video on it when all is said and done, but it's going to be a miserable video. It's not going to be fun for me to make. And then I'm just going to get a lot of comments going like, you're being so negative. I'm like, demand better. That's all we want. It's just... I feel like I'm going out of my goddamn mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got 6 minutes left. Would you like to wrap up some closing thoughts on this filler episode?
I think the problem is, Matt, I don't think there's much to say. I think we've said everything. There's nothing to chew on at all. So there's not anything. I don't really know what to say, even in a positive way. Really, if we could try and think of a positive thing that happened, I'm really struggling.
McGregor looks like how he does in episode 2 with the sweet mullet.
That
was kind of fun to see.
That was fun to see.
Even though it kind of feels strange to see him go from episode 2 mullet to episode 3 where they tried to make him look more like Guinness for that transition.
Back to it.
And now, but I guess, you know, he's haggard now, whatever.
I think Ewan McGregor's trying. You know, he's having fun. I think that's the only thing that's keeping me through it, I guess, to some degree.
You can sense that he enjoyed making it and he loves that character.
Yeah.
But we're going to get, 3-4 seasons of this now? In between Mandalorian? It better be better than this. I mean, I don't know. I think honestly, I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. I think I'm at the point now where I'm not going to watch something unless I see that it's getting rave reviews. So I don't care about Andor.
I can't believe we got here. I didn't think that this day was even possible. Like, I'm such a... they had me chomping at the bit. Like, I'm ready. I was ready to take whatever they gave me. And instead, they gave me so much shit that I actually... I don't even care. Like, I've actually just... I
was so excited for every single cinematic release.
Same. Everyone.
You know? Like, just think back, mate. We've got about 4 minutes left, so I'm just gonna end it on this feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but I was heading back to uni.
Yeah.
And you were heading to Ravensbourne.
Yeah.
And I had to get on the DLR from Canning Town to get to Waterloo to get back to Exeter.
Yeah.
And I think we'd hung out the night before. We said our goodbyes. I wasn't going to see you for like 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Yeah.
We bumped into each other on the tube the next morning by complete happenstance. You went to me, have you seen the second Force Awakens trailer? And I was like, no. And the grin on your face said to me that it was a trailer.
Yeah.
And then we sat on the DLR going overground and you played it to me and it was blowing my mind how fucking awesome it looked. And Star Wars was back and it had the magic to it. And, you know, like when Han Solo's going, like, you know, the Jedi, the Force, it's all true, like in the trailer, I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to be epic. And, you know, to go from that magical feeling, what was it now, 7 years ago, which is not even that long, to be honest, in terms of a franchise's viability, in 7 years, they've run it into the ground.
Into the ground. And even that, like the first trailer for The Force Awakens, I'll never forget, and I don't think this is ever going to happen again in terms of Disney stuff. I'll never forget, I was in a lecture, and someone was like, the Star Wars trailer just dropped, and everyone in the lecturer, including the lecturer, pulled their laptop up and started watching the trailer, and we were like, oh shit, that was sick. And it's like, that's never going to... What thing is going to do that now again? Like, no.
I could cry.
Literally same. Like, what the fuck? That's why we got the shades on. There's tears underneath it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's to hide it. Yeah,
tears underneath
it's not going to go away. They're going to continuously run this shit into the ground. The same with the Marvel shows. It's going to be 3-4 Disney Plus shows a year.
We just got to
Star Wars and Marvel.
Just got to sit back and watch it. Burn to the ground.
They're going to run it into the ground until they get some consistent flops, and then it's going to go away for a couple of years, and then they're going to rinse and repeat. That's what's going to happen.
I feel like Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi, but not when he's partying, but when Vader's being burnt and he's just watching him burning.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have less than a minute on this Zoom call, so I've been Matt Whittle. He's been Charlie Lee, and Kenobi, you've been disappointing.